Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Film Optix review brought to you by the Drive-In Podcast Network. I'm your host, Christian, and today we're going to be reviewing the latest HBO series, His Dark Materials, Episode 3, Season 2. And, of course, I'm joined by Griffin from Film Speak, not Film Speak.
Spill Speak. Lee Scoresby. That's what we're talking about here.
Lee
Hey,
Scoresby.
yes,
How are you doing?
I am great, man. Coming off of the holiday weekend and turkey and just a bunch of food. It's just a little bit. Today was a slow day, weird day. But we get to wrap it up by talking about His Dark Materials. So what better, to be honest?
Yeah, and I know we were talking about a few weeks ago. You know, we rather have this on a Sunday, which I still think is true, but at the same time, at least we have something to look forward to on Monday evening. So that's always a good thing. So. It's some good stuff. I'm very, very excited. But we got some housekeeping news here before we begin today's recap of episode 3. We would like to thank HBO for allowing us to watch and review the series. And you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Red Circle, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and of course Amazon Music. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. I still need to use our Film Optix Twitter a little bit more.
He's letting you all down. He's letting you all down, and really, you should just be following Christian on Twitter. You don't need to follow the Film Optix Twitter account.
That is very true. Music City Nerd, all one word. So
there you go.
I was very surprised that was not taken, because I tried so hard to get other handles, and I was like, dang, everything's taken now. But there's still a few good ones out there, so it is what it is. But yes, we are reviewing episode 3, doing a recap. This one is titled Thief. So this one, this episode was very, I personally enjoyed it. Mainly because I know what happens in episode 4 and 5, but we're not talking about those episodes today. What were your first reactions, like your first thoughts about episode 3?
It was fine. It was definitely just like progressing the story for progressing the story's sake. There was a really excellent scene between Mrs. Coulter and Lee Scoresby. That was definitely the highlight of the episode. We learn a little bit more about Mrs. Coulter. We get a glimpse under the facade of Lee, and I thought that was just such a really emotional confrontation where both of these people just kind of peel back the layers, and they walk away with a mutual just respect for I shouldn't say respect, but it's sort of like there's like a moral principle that basically points them in the direction that they start heading down. And so I don't know. It was just like, it was really interesting. Like Mrs. Coulter in general, and I'm just going to talk about this specific scene, but like Mrs. Coulter in general is so fascinating. Like, by far one of the best characters, if not the best character on the entire show. And Ruth Wilson definitely has a lot to do with that. But like also, I don't know. It's just like you never really know where she's going with things, right? Like she has this like push and pull sort of like love of Lyra and whatnot. And like, you know, it's just like, okay, where is she landing with this? Because it's like last episode we saw her like decimate the witches, it was basically her that led to the
pulling all the strings.
Yeah, right. And now she's like going after Lyra, but like, and she knows that she has a bigger part to play. But then she's like, Lee, listen, I don't really care what happens. If you find Lyra, keep her safe. And it was like, and like, it almost felt like she had like she almost had this like self-realization that like she's going to do something bad, that like she was asking Lee to protect Lyra from her. and like just sort of like coming to understand like the horrible person that she can be, which, you know, we've seen her interrogate people many times in the series, and there's always like a flip of the switch and you're like, oh, okay, she's not this you know, polite, gentle, motherly figure that she lets on. She's actually kind of a horrible person. And it's like there was like this episode was like this self-realization that she's just like, yeah, I'm kind of a horrible person, and like I can't let my daughter like fall victim to my own quest, I guess, or whatever, for lack of a better phrase. But yeah, I don't know that. I mean, out of everything that happened in this episode, and there was a lot that sort of just like went down, moving the pieces a little bit further on the board. But like that was the sequence to me that was just like, wow.
Yeah, Mrs. Coulter is a very hard person to read because, like you said, she'll do like, I don't know, like 7 bad things and then 3 deeds that are like somewhat good, because as we know, she lets Lee Scoresby go after their deep conversation. You know, Lee saying, you know, my life is worth 1/10 of Lyra's. And Mrs. Coulter is like, well, you know, like, well, she's my daughter. He's like, so? And she's like, well, I love her. He's like, well, just because you love someone doesn't necessarily mean that they're safe with you. And you don't always have their best interests at heart.
Yeah, and then he gives that personal anecdote of like his father, and like, you know, him being able to tolerate pain because his father like beat him as a kid, and it's like he knows firsthand that, yeah, just because you're related to someone by blood doesn't mean that they're you know, they have your best interests in mind. And the other thing that I think is so interesting, like with this whole self-realization of Mrs. Coulter just like being like, you know, kind of like hating herself, it like translates into her relationship with her demon, right? Like her demon doesn't really say much. It doesn't actually speak at all. And she's like really mean to it, you know, like, and by extension, I mean, she's like mean to herself. She hates herself. She hates whoops, sorry, I hit the mic there. She hates, she hates that version of herself, you know? So it's like when you see her up against the wall, just sort of like taken back by that whole confrontation that she had with Lee, it's, yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's interesting. The way that she's written is wonderful.
Yeah, and then her demon like slowly is like, is it okay if I touch your hand?
Yeah, right. It's like the two. Yeah, it's like the two halves of her personality. Yeah, exactly.
It's so weird because I'm trying to figure out what happened with her and her demon, because clearly she, Leo, we've said this before, she's able to separate from her demon, or be, they don't have to be within close proximity.
Well, kind of. I mean, I think that, yeah, it's not like she doesn't have the ability to do like what the witches do per se, but like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it was, but I'm trying to figure out why her demon just doesn't talk. I don't know why. Like, well, everyone else's does. But
yeah, I think it just comes down to like the relationship with herself, you know. I mean, like obviously there's like a lot of damage inside of her that we haven't really like learned yet. You know, I mean, obviously like Lee was sort of like seeing right through her, and he was kind of like calling her out on her upbringing and stuff like that, because it was like I guess it was like a similar situation to like what he went through as a kid, which I actually found to be a really interesting way of connecting those two characters. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like stuff like that, you know, like why doesn't her demon speak? And then like, you know,
I need to know, Griffin.
Yeah, I know. There's yeah, like and she has this like obsession of stealing childhood innocence away from adulthood, I guess you could say. It's like there's something rooted in her upbringing and in her childhood that like has basically formed her into the person that she is. And I'm just sort of just like waiting for the episode where we like learn all about it. But until we get to that point, I'm just loving, you know, like the little bits and pieces through interactions with other characters that we're getting.
Yeah. And it's almost as if with Miss Coulter and Lee Scoresby, they, it's almost as if, you know, they had the same experience, you know, as a child, but they kind of they took different paths. It's like, okay, well, what are you going to do with this? Like, how are you going to deal with this growing up, like as you get older? And it definitely seems that Lee has taken a different, you know, not necessarily a high road, but it seems that he's learned to deal with his past in a more, I guess, sound way.
Yeah.
Versus Mrs. Coulter, because it seems she has a lot clearly bottled up, because I feel like she's just gonna explode it like literally any moment. But then she like reels herself back in. There's some kind of like self-control there. But with Lee Scoresby, it just seems that he's taken that pain and kind of turned it into something else that, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the other, yeah, it's just sort of like the dichotomy between the two of them is like, you know, basically how they handled the pain and trauma of their upbringing, right? Like, like Lee basically, you know, buried it, and like just he buried it and sought escape, right? He wants to just get out, see the world, just, you know, feel the purities of nature and everything. And just like, he's driven by adventure, I guess you could say. Whereas like Mrs. Coulter clearly, she buries everything just by wanting to conquer everything, because she's been like beaten down, her entire life. I mean, even in that exchange, we learn that like she's a survivor of like abuse and like trauma, and like her emotions were basically warped by that experience, and she represses it and basically punishes herself by punishing her demon, you know. So it's like there's you know what I'm saying, like that's what, it's like she hates that part of her, and like she feels like she, you know, whenever she does stuff that like is basically pushing back against you know, her quest for power or whatever, she understands what she's doing is wrong, so she like, you know, she punishes herself, her soul or whatever, and she has this like, it's like it's like this psychological torment, and I don't know, it's like it's so fascinating. Sorry, I know really I went on a bit of a tangent there, but like, you know, no, you're totally fine, because it's, you know, like we've seen her, you know, ever since season 1. It's like she seems very collected at times, but you can definitely tell that something is off, and it's more of like there's like a part of her soul that's like missing. And yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
And it's like, even with you know, clearly she doesn't like Lord Asher all that much, because anytime he's brought up, she like loses her marbles. Besides, you know, when they finally met up towards the end of season 1, where she kind of just like fell down, like just like kind of just like fell into his arms, you know, like they had their little you know, affection towards each other to right before Lord Asriel, you know, went to the portal. But other than that, it's like the only real, like we've seen little bits and pieces of vulnerability from her, but she, you know, she talks about Lyra's prophecy, and we also see that from the Bears. Coming back from Serafina Pecola, her demon comes to visit the Bears, and I was very excited to see him again. I'm blanking on his name. I'm so sorry.
Yorick, dude, come on.
Yorick,
I missed Yorick. Yeah, it was good to see him, even if it was only for a brief moment.
Him? I love his voice actor.
Yeah, he does a great. I mean, obviously, I think they distort it a little bit, but yeah, it is. He does a great job for sure.
But like, they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm here to talk about Lyra," and he like, "Oh, you have my full attention."
Well, that's the thing that I liked about this episode was like Lyra isn't around, but like the people who believe in her and like see hope through her are like, all you have to say is like, Lyra needs your help because she needs to fulfill this prophecy, or even just like, Lyra needs your help, and they'll drop what they're doing to just go assist her because they believe in like the cause that she represents and like the like I said, the hope that she brings. And we see that with Lee, and we see that with Yorick for that brief moment, and obviously the witches, coming off of the massacre from the end of last episode, they still are like, we'll have our vengeance, but we need to find Lyra. Yeah, we need to back Lyra and get her to fulfill the prophecy before someone else finds her, like Mrs. Coulter finds her or whatever. So
I really want to know what she is, because it seems that her own mother knows who she is. I don't really know if her father does. I'm assuming he seems like a very smart individual, but we haven't seen James McAvoy yet this season. And season 1, we didn't really see him all that much either.
I'm going to go out here and say I don't think that we see Azriel for. I don't know. Until this finale, if that, I don't know if we're going to see Azriel this season. I just feel like he's not really involved in, he's like involved because it's like he started everything, but it's like he's not really involved in anything that's going on. Like he's not involved in the search for Andrew Scott. Maybe their paths will collide, maybe they won't. Also, it was really nice to just finally see Andrew Scott, like even for like a brief moment under a hood, barely knew it was him, but we knew it was him.
Very beginning of the episode.
He's like basically like calling Lee towards him, and I'm like, who is this guy? Like I'm waiting for that episode where we get to meet him, and it's like what, and then like things start to click, and it's like this I don't even know. And then it was interesting, like the way like that like, he mentions what the hell is it, Stanislaus Grumman, which I assume is a name, an
alias.
Like an alias. Thank you for Andrew Scott's character. But it's just like the way that everyone was sort of like reacting to that name. It's like, oh wow, this guy, he's he's like,
it's like
anti-Magisterium.
Voldemort's name into the world. They're like,
yeah, right.
Yo.
And like the one guy, like that one doctor, like tried to shoot Lee for it, and I was just like, whoa, like what's
so dumb?
Yeah, I know. I was like, and then Lee killed him. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. This Dr. Grumman fella, he's causing some ruckus.
Yeah, because he was saying that with Andrew Scott's character, that he's an enemy against the Magisterium, and he's like, oh, so are you, Mr. Scoresby, and he has his lemur demon or whatever. I was like,
dude, that lemur was creepy. That lemur, I was afraid of what was going to go on with that lemur. I was just like, whoa, what's?
I was like, okay, well, lemurs do have a dark side. This is not Zaboomafoo.
I've never seen a lemur snarl like that. Let's put it that way. That was
seriously though. I was like, okay, that's really weird. But yeah, it was very, very off-putting. I was like, ooh, well,
yeah.
And then they have their little shootout, and I mean, I guess Lee Scoresby shoots him through the rags, or like the kind of the cloth that's coming down, and
yeah,
that's just, it's the end of that. I mean, he got shot at, so he's gonna shoot back. And that's
see you, Zaboomafoo. Goodbye.
that was very weird, but I really like the. I mean, besides that, let's see what else. I mean, of course, we have the adventures of the scholar, one of my favorite characters.
Mary.
Mary.
Yeah,
she's trying to recreate everything. So
yeah, I like how she's like trying to create like an alethiometer for their world, or just basically using the elements of their world to create or something. It's just I don't know. It's just really interesting. And then she like kind of is on to something when she starts using the what was it called, the Icus, or the I forget what it was.
The box?
Yeah, no, she was using the
sticks.
The sticks, yeah, and that's that's what got it to work for her, which I thought was really interesting because it was like sort of like a mini commentary on like technology. You know, it's like when you distance yourself from technology and you just clear your mind and like be present with.
Dude, I didn't even think about that.
Your own thoughts. I don't know. Like, I'm sure. Listen, I'm sure I'm like digging way too deep into that, and that's not really what they were going for.
Good because it's like, I mean, I feel like she's sitting on her bed. She's in her own element, her own space. You know, there aren't really any other distractions. She's kind of just. She was reading the I forgot what kind of book it was.
It was the itching or something like that, itching or itching or I probably but that was basically like that was but that's what she was doing with the sticks, and then she was basically using that to create her own version of like an alethiometer or just like understand or like communicate with dust or whatever. So
that's a good analogy that you said, that separating yourself from distancing yourself from technology to have a clearer mind, which I mean that's totally possible. Like that makes total sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, so we have not Daphne, excuse me, Lyra and
Dafne Keen.
Dafne Keen.
But Lyra and Will.
Alethiometer.
Yeah.
It gets stolen.
That dumb child. What the hell, man? I can't say I didn't see that one coming. That was about as clear as day. But it sets up like what's going to happen in the next episode. Which I thought it was really funny when she was like escaping the college or whatever. Like that police officer guy, like Mary.
That's right.
Mary was like, "Hey, come here, I got to tell you something." And then she tells Lyra to go, and the guy just like buys it. I was just like, "Oh, come on, really?" Like it was so stupid. But
I was like, sorry, go ahead.
No, it was just so stupid. But it was like kind of, I don't know, it was funny. Yeah, and then we got that like chase scene where she goes and she finds Boreal. But no, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
It was funny with with Boreal's. I guess that's Boreal's. I guess it's his lackey's sidekick or whatever. He's like, like I'm a policeman. There's no badge whatsoever. But I mean, Mary's asking all these valid questions. But I really do like how he. When he was talking to Lyra, he kind of trips her up because there's a word for it that lawyers use. Like they'll ask you a series of questions to kind of throw you off, and then like they'll sneak one in there just to see what your response is for like the information that they're actually looking for. And it was like he baited her. Like she totally got it. She's like, "Oh, like where's Will?" Like after after like the fifth or sixth question, like, says it, and she's like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah, it was the technique. I was like, "Oh, she's gonna slip up," and sure enough, she did. But yeah, that was a great scene.
Lawyers do that all the time. I forgot the name of the technique of that. I'll have to ask my friend about it. But it's something that they do to throw you off to get the information that they're really looking for. Because if they just straight up ask you, you're not going to say anything. So it's kind of like taking your mind elsewhere and then circling back around. It's really weird, but clever.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and then she winds up in the hands of Boreal, and of course,
Do you like skulls?
Yeah. So tell me about your love of skulls, like that. Yeah, sure. That red flag number 11 going on there, and then obviously he steals the alethiometer for her and then presents like another obstacle that they have to overcome. But the interesting thing about that was when her and Will went to the movie theater, which when they were watching Paddington, I mean, that was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. I love that interaction because she reaches for the popcorn.
Yeah.
And she's like, "It's disgusting. It tastes like wood shaving." Stop eating it. She's like, "I can't."
I know.
Like, yeah, that's popcorn for you.
Yeah.
Can't stop eating it.
No, it was so good, and it was a nice little sort of meta thing there, talking about like Mr. Brown and Paddington being like explorers or whatever. I don't know. It was just sort of a nice little thing. And then like seeing how like Lyra needed the escape, because I mean, in that moment, like she confesses like basically what happens with Roger and everything. And she just feels, she feels like it's like her series of failures she has taken so personally. And she basically just attributes them to shortcomings on her end when they're really not. But it is like it like something like her just like losing the alethiometer had like just a massive effect on her, and not just because it's the tool for her and it's like kind of an extension of her. It's because like now she's not going to be able to help Will find his dad and stuff like that. And so just sort of like she continuously has this like feeling of letting other people down. And I was just like, that's actually a really powerful thing to incorporate into this. And it's not all her fault. I mean, she's just a kid. She's learning. And like, especially with Roger, like you can't even pin that on her. So it's just like there's, she puts up a good front, but there is like a lot that she feels responsible for. And it was nice to get that sort of, moment where she addresses that.
Yeah. And I think that's probably my second favorite, because she's saying, she's like, listen, like, my friend died. She's like, I miss him. She's like, I want to talk to him. And I can't because of everything that's happened to her. And she really just shows like, hey, like, I've been through, like, we both been through the ringer, but, she's like, yes, Will's lost his dad, but I mean, we don't know if he's necessarily dead or alive as of yet.
Well, we have seen Andrew Scott, so
that is true.
Yeah.
And, what the difference is, she can help Will find his father. Roger's never coming back.
Yeah, that's the thing. And it's like it's the continuous sort of like failings on her end that are like stressing her out and stuff. Or just really kind of affecting her mental state. But yeah. No, 100%. That was probably my second favorite scene of the entire episode. And then my third favorite scene was when they actually go to Boreal's place, and he's like toying with them, and then he pulls out the alethiometer and then just like calls them on all their bullshit. And he's like, all right, I'll give it back to you, but you got to complete this quest. You need to get this knife next week. So like that's,
next week. All right. Yeah. Then you see Lyra kind of getting fed up with everything because she's like, you might as well just give it back to me because, like, you're just a collector. You're just kind of sitting on a shelf.
He's
not even going to be using it.
He's
just using it for leverage.
Yeah, like, exactly.
He just wants the freaking letters. The letters. Where are the letters? Like,
well, I thought that's what he was going to ask for, but he didn't. Yeah. And I was like, so what does he want? Like what? And then also, we didn't talk about this, but the scene with the girl in whatever the hell that like world was, where like all the kids are.
The city of magpies. Liana Mormont.
Yeah. Where she's basically talking. She's like, the specters came. My parents were basically butchered in front of me. Yeah, it scarred me, but whatever. And then like she was like, she kept looking at the tower or something, and then like Will saw the tower and like the person in there, and she's like, well, that's impossible because no one can get in there. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, obviously you're a great liar, Mormont. So yeah, it's I'm really curious what's going to happen there, and like what like Boreal's game is right now, because like I know he's working for Mrs. Coulter. I know he's like doing stuff for the Magisterium, but the dude has his own agenda. And I'm just like, okay, what is this agenda? And he needs this knife. So sure. We'll figure out what the hell this knife thing is next week.
Well, you'll figure out next week. I already know, but
did we learn, without spoiling anything, did we learn about it before next week's episode, or is that the first time that it's really introduced?
That is the first time it's really introduced.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
As if memory serves correctly, yes, that is the first time it's introduced.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm really curious to see what happens there. It's, at least we know next week's going to be action packed. So.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, dude, don't spoil this for me. Come on.
No.
Or the people listening, listeners.
Of course.
Go tweet at Christian and tell him not to spoil things.
I've only spoiled one thing accidentally. It was Bridge of Terabithia. The movie came out, and we had to read this book for
She's
school.
dead.
Yeah, and I accidentally spoiled it to my friend's mom. I'm like, you guys didn't like read the book? Like, we literally read this in class like maybe 2 months ago. And then the movie was just so happened to be coming out. And I was like, yeah, so I forgot the girl dies. And she's like, why would you see that? I was like, what do you mean? Like, what? Like, it was really bad.
Yeah,
and I accidentally spoiled. This is also indirectly, Devin, my co-host, he's never seen any version of Little Women. He doesn't know what happens to Little Women. I thought that he did because he's seen a lot more movies than I have. I thought he had seen at least one version of Little Women. I was like, yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, Beth's, spoiler alert for everyone out there, by the way, Beth's, death scene was like really, really good. And he's like, oh, I didn't know Beth died. I'm like,
so
what?
Stupid.
No. I'm like, dude, like, I thought he was messing with me. He's like, no, I've like never even, he's like, I have no clue what the story's about. I was like, oh my God. Like I accidentally spoiled it for him. So
the hell, man.
Yeah.
What's going on with this?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Dude,
anyways.
it's a Tuesday. I mean, Monday, whatever. It's December 1st coming up here. It's officially Christmas time.
It's not December 1st. That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow it will be.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I've been celebrating Christmas since November 1st because I'm just that kind of person.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this episode, it is definitely, setting the pieces in motion. I thought it was overall, I thought it was a really good episode. A lot of things happen to that I definitely think will have payoffs within these next coming up episodes. I believe for all the listeners out there, I think there is 10 episodes.
Oh, there's 10. Interesting.
I think.
I thought it was going to be like 6 or 8 or something like that.
6 seems so short.
That's how many there was last season, but
let's see. It was December 27th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think there is 10. Well, there might be 8. I think it's 8. Same as last time.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's fine. I mean, I'd rather it just be 8 episodes instead of just 2 random filler episodes that have nothing to do with the story.
No, for sure. Yeah. But yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So, final thoughts on this week's episode. Okay, I guess what I'm asking is what are you hoping to find out next week?
What's in the tower? Why Boreal wants this knife? Why he's obsessed with like ancient artifacts and art? Like, what's that all about? There's just more to Boreal that we don't really know about. He's just a very interesting character. I am praying, hoping to God we get to finally see Andrew Scott for more than like 5 fucking seconds.
Yeah. Gotta save the best for last, man. No.
Like, dude, it's been 3 episodes. Give me him. I'm ready for him.
Yeah,
Just come on. And I'm looking forward to like him and Lin-Manuel Miranda's chemistry. That should be fun. Maybe more Yorick. Who knows? But
I want more Yorick in my life.
I mean, we all do, but we all want a Yorick in our lives. But yeah,
the caps are melting, so it's like
it's
happening in the actual show.
This episode brought to you by climate change. That's, I mean,
Greta Thunberg.
yeah, right. Yeah, no, I dug it. It was, or well, I shouldn't say I dug it. It's probably my least favorite of the season thus far, just because it was just sort of like,
okay.
I mean, that's not really same. It's not like I was like, oh, I have these massive opinions about episode 3. It's so bad. Like, no, it's fine. There's a couple of great scenes in it, but I was just like, okay, so it's just, one of those, okay, we're going to further the plot a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then next week, it seems like it's going to be pretty, eventful. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. I'm looking forward to next week. I've been rewatching, since I bench episodes 1 through 5, like an idiot, but it's so hard not to sometimes. It's like, they're all right there, and let's just watch it all. And
let's do it.
Oh man. Man, oh man. But yeah, I even with me rewatching these, there's smaller things that I didn't really notice through the first time watching, because I'm just in awe of just everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it really just I just love it. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. I kind of remember, certain things that happened, but I just look at them like in a different way, and I'm like, oh, like I didn't notice that before, and X, Y, and Z, or whatever. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week's episode.
Should be a good one.
Episode 4. Yeah, it really should be a good one for sure. But yeah, I believe that pretty much does it for this here recap. Of course, Griffin, thank you always for coming on and talking shop, everything His Dark Materials.
You know what, Christian? Thank you for putting on such a wonderful show and inviting me back week to week. I don't know why you do it, but I'm happy you do.
Oh, of course. There's not much of us left out there who like this.
and listeners, if you've made it this far, God bless you, because we're just shooting the shit right now. That's really all it is. That's
all you really can do. We don't have like any strong opinions about.
I am passionately against Lee Scoresby. Fuck that guy.
There's always an agenda someone has to make up out of thin air, and it's like, what? I wasn't even thinking that whatsoever. We just like the show. It has the the real world and the fantasy elements. It kind of reminds you of Harry Potter in a way, but it's definitely its own thing. Like, I just really like the story. Like, I want to know who the hell Lyra is. Like, because everyone,
Lyra is dust. She is dust incarnate. That is what she is.
Yeah. Aren't they all, though, technically?
I mean, yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah. I just really quick, I really liked how Yorick was saying, no, it was Serafina Peckler's demon saying that, Lyra has to do this great task in ignorance, or else like the entire world will like pretty much like be set on fire and just it's doomed. But it's like, what is this? It's not like a the boy who lives kind of moment. I guess you can kind of say it's like Anakin in a way, but they only kind of hint at they're just being a chosen one. But this is more focused on like, hey, they explicitly say it in the show. Lyra is the chosen one. She is the one who's supposed to bring balance to the world, like she's the Avatar or something.
Yeah,
I really don't know. But I'm very excited to figure out what it is and what Will's role is in all this, because back in season 1, they're like, there's a boy who's just as important, and together they're gonna like change the world. And it's like, what is this grand task that's going to unfold upon our eyes? Because I don't think I can take much more after season 1. It was just so sad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Poor Roger.
Oh man. I know. I'm just like, oh, it still kills me, man. And like, I didn't really like Roger all that much, to be completely honest.
You asshole. How do you not like Roger? He's the sweetest little boy, and he's just murdered for no reason.
He is murdered for no. That's what made me feel bad for him.
Yeah. No, not just the fact that he had no parents. He was an orphan. And then, none of that? No? All right.
I mean, we get that story all the time, right? No, I'm just joking.
All right, and thank you all for tuning into this episode of His Dark Recaps.
Ooh, I like that.
It's not a good. It's not. Don't go with it. Don't go with it.
He plus like son of a bitch, Christian.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my gosh! Of course, you can follow us on every podcast platform out there. Make sure to check out the Drive-In Podcast Network over on the Music City Drive-In website at musiccitydrivein.com. We got sports, commentary, music, Oscar talk, missed Oscar-tunities as well. But Griffin, let everyone know what's coming up on your channel, what your plans are for this week.
Yeah, so if you haven't done so already, head on over to the Film Speak channel and check out all the stuff we have going on over there. Movie reviews, TV recaps, recapping The Mandalorian each and every week. Also have a couple of video essays coming out. I just released one for Soul last week, spoiler free, so you don't have to worry about it. You can go just hear me gush about the film and why you need to see it. And then I should have one, again, I keep plugging it, but I should have one for Quantum of Solace coming out very, very soon. So yeah, if you're interested in any of that or you're interested in any of what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller.
All right, yeah, and definitely check out his Soul review. It is very, very good. I checked it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
My God, I love that movie. I was like,
oh, it's so good, so good.
Oh my gosh, I was like, Pixar did it again. It's no, it's fine. Just hit me in the feelings, Yeah. But yeah, that pretty much concludes this episode, and we'll see you guys next week.